I say this all the time, and I think most of my students are in 11th grade, so they're 16, 17 years old, and this is right around the point you start trying to make your own decisions about what you're going to do. Not that you weren't cool or trying to be cool before it, but that's if you're ever going to start doing it independently, it's usually around then. Yeah. And I try over and over to tell kids, like, being cool is not the same thing as being popular in school. It's like being cool is just being confident and doing your thing. Yeah. Like, the coolest kid in your high school class is the kid who figures out what they're into and does it regardless of what anyone else has to say about it. And usually you end up finding that person, interesting or endearing in some way. And if you are the football guy if that's you, like, do that.
Yeah,
you do that.
That's the thing. You do you.
But it's when people spend too much time trying to do things, like trying too hard. And I'm not saying, like, try for the things you care about, but like trying too hard is usually not cool. Or trying too hard at things you don't care about. Yeah. Which brings us back to the many things. Whether I don't know if you try hard or not, but you have many things as far as I can tell that you are good at or into, and I'm looking here and I see some fine woodworking, right? My wife still uses a jewelry box that you made that I bought from you, a long time ago. It's still in the house. Cool. We had to move it. because my daughter now discovered that the drawer slide.
She's like,
she's right that age, so we had to like move it up on a shelf or something. So obviously, a lot of hiking. Yeah. Right? A lot of concerts.
Yeah.
I've seen you at 1, 2. I've seen you, and I know you've talked a lot about going to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
You have a pretty intense wood shop.
Yeah.
Right? So, a lot of reading.
Yes.
You mentioned plants. Do you have a garden outside or house plants?
The garden's coming this year.
Yeah.
We bought a house about a little over 2 years ago now, and had some other things we had to take care of first, but the garden is coming. I think this is the season.
Yeah, it's good.
This is where we're starting.
When I moved into my house, it already had a garden space in the back that they had just literally used for chopping wood and junk. Yeah. And so I cleaned it out. I was like, well, I got a garden. So we started planting stuff, and now it's like a thing that I do, But I felt stupid to have the space and not use it.
Tibbens family farm.
Yeah, I literally just like pressured myself. I was, well, what kind of idiot has a garden and doesn't use it? And so I did it. Now, so that's am I missing any big hobbies?
I mean, you say hiking. Hiking's actually taking I don't want to say a backseat, but it's just been. I mean, after the injury, it's been hard for me to like get into it at the same level. When you not to say I couldn't and don't still enjoy it, but I think it's shifted more to just like pushing yourself, and that was like a method to push yourself. Right. And I push that into different directions now. Like I do a lot of kayaking now. I got a little stumpy whitewater boat, and I go flip around in the river a bit and get myself in all sorts of funky situations, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But that's been kind of like that's like I want to say the physical sport that I've been kind of like pushing further. Started off hiking and biking, like I was on bike paths and whatnot all the time, hiking all the time, and now I'm definitely doing a lot more like kayaking and stuff, which is harder because it's harder to get out more consistently. But it's like one of those. It's just love. I've always loved being on the water. I mean, I've got a fish tattoo on me because I love the water. It was and not fish as in the band, but fish as in like a skeleton of a fish. Yeah, cool. To remind me, like, you love the water. Don't forget. Yeah, like don't forget you love it. Yeah, get out there. And it's just one of those, like, I see it all the time. I'm just like, oh man.
I hope it's warm this weekend.
I mean, honestly, when it was like 72 the other week, I was just like, I should have just gone out because it's like it's so hard to paddle when it's this cold out. The water's so cold. But we'll get that dry suit eventually.
So how did you get it? Like, I mean, I guess the entry question for any of them, whether it's kayaking, hiking, the rest.
How do you get into them?
Yeah. I mean, like, because I don't remember if we said this. I think we were already recording, but like, I also am a guy with a lot of hobbies, and my wife has now figured it out. We've been together long enough that I will do a thing. And I mean, there's certain things I just always do. Yeah. But for 2 or 3 years, there's a thing I get into. Yep. And I do that. And the thing that I suck at is sticking with it longer than that. I do a thing that I like long enough that I'm better at it than pretty much everyone I know.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be like, I can do this, and I'm gonna be really good.
Yeah, you get that 98th percentile.
And then I'm like, well, I can beat the people I know, or I'm better at the people. And then I'm like, and it fades a little bit, and all of a sudden I'm interested in something else, you know. And so like, but for you, like, how do you do that? How do you
keep going with it?
Yeah, or how did you get into kayaking, or how did you get in, you know, any of those things? Like, how does that start for you?
Yeah, I mean, so it's like for hiking and biking, it's hiking specifically. It's the easiest thing to get into. It's like, how do you? I've run like hiking clubs with the library, which the library is a varied population, but generally it's older women, and they're intimidated by going hiking. They don't know where to start. And I started this hiking club, and I got peppered with, how do you go hiking? I'm like, you go for a walk.
Get some shoes and a water bottle.
There's urban hiking.
Yeah.
Walking down the sidewalk, that's hiking. I mean, it's
it feels different, but it
feels a little bit different. But it's like it's the starting point. Like you're just laying the foundation, and like, what's the difference between like hiking and mountaineering? It's like one's steeper than the other, I guess. Like you're walking, and and sometimes you need some extra things to help you walk higher or steeper and get yourself up there. But it's like, when you boil it down, it's just walking. Yeah. It's just walking.
What is that? I always say his name wrong. John Muir.
Yeah.
I never get those vowels right.
Yeah.
I love, like, I don't know why I've read the same, like, essay multiple times, but he talks about how, like, he hates the word hiking because it sounds like work.
Yeah.
And so he wanted everyone to use the word saunter.
Yeah.
Because saunter sounds so, like, whimsical. I just sort of saunter out through the woods.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a weird word, so I'm okay that it didn't catch on. But I think that mindset, like, hiking does not have to be, like, trudging and drudging.
When I talk about hiking, or people ask me about hiking, they always, like, paint it in this, like, you're got 80 pounds on your back, and you're hiking through the jungle and mud, and there's bugs and ticks and fleas and things biting at you and chasing you and whatnot. It's like, dude, it's like you're just walking through the woods.
Yeah, I was just walking. Cool stuff to look at.
Just walking. Yeah. Change of scenery.
Yeah, well, you're just thinking, like, it starts somewhere. I took right before school started back last year. I took my son on, like, his first actual hike, because out next to Shenandoah, it used to be a golf course, and now Shenandoah University bought it.
Yeah,
built their outdoor campus. But all the paths are still there. So he's gone there a few times, but his first, like, off pavement hike,
off-road hiking,
we did Bear's Den.
Nice.
From the bottom.
That's beautiful, because that was the hike that got me into hiking.
Yeah,
Bear's Den.
Yeah, so I was like, what's close? It can't be too long. He's 3. Like, what am I going to do? And so I know a lot of people, like, park at the top of the mountain, and I don't even know where to. Like, I'm sure I'd figure it out, but I've never done that. So we parked at the bottom, and we went, and we were like just a short ways in, and I'm thinking, like, man, he's 3. He's wearing Crocs. Like, I'm like, it's not a tough hike. It's not that long, but it's like, we're still, whatever. I got some water in a bag. And some
carry him
for yeah, and that's why I was like, if I have to, I'll carry him. Oh, man, he, like, ran right up. We got to the top, and there were some older kids who had come the shorter way. And he was, like, scrambling across, like, climbing the rocks. I was like, this is fantastic.
Yep.
Like, this is great. Because I need to get my fat ass off the couch and do this more. And so if he's into it, that's good.
Yep.
But, yeah, like, it doesn't have to be hiking the
Dude, you don't have to go
Crest
hike for
Trail,
2,700 miles to be a hiker. Like, you go on a walk with me, you're hiking with me. Like,
So, but for the big one, you said you're walking with 80 pounds on your back or whatever. The first time I did a section hike was probably, I think it was right after my freshman year of college. My friend and I my girlfriend at the time dropped us off the Mason-Dixon line at the Maryland border, and we walked back to my parents' house on the Appalachian Trail. Now, they live, 10 miles, 15 miles off, and I was like, well, we'll just walk the roads. Forget how fast you drive a car and slow you walk. The worst part of the entire thing was walking the road to get from the Appalachian Trail to the house.
100%.
But we severely overpacked. It was the first longer hike,
yes,
right?
Rookie mistake.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's universal, and I think I almost kind of encourage it to an extent. It's like it's a double-edged sword in that, like, it sometimes turns people completely off of hiking because they're like, that was miserable. But then I'm like, okay, like, you had that experience. Like, let's go out together. They see what I bring nowadays, and they're just like, wait, you literally have like a water bottle in hand and a drawstring bag on your shoulder, and you're gonna spend the night in that. I'm like, yeah, it's warm out. Like, I got a mat.
Yeah.
What do you need?
And that was, and we hit a point where we stopped and to make some food, and it was they were probably in their 50s. I don't know. It was a married couple who walked through, and you could tell they were doing this a bunch, and they were doing a bigger section than us, actually. And the guy stopped, and he was just sort of, looking.
How long are you going to be out here for?
Oh, yeah, what are you guys doing? Where are you going? And it's and we started talking, and he goes, bag looks awful big for that. And I was like, yeah, well, I was like, we got this. And he goes, you want some help? And I was mildly offended, but I thought, well, this guy does appear to know what he's doing, so all right. And he had all these tricks, we're carrying a roll of duct tape. Hey, dummy, just wrap that around your pole. So then you got that.
You only need how much? Do you need 40 feet of duct tape?
Yeah,
no,
you don't
need 2 feet.
You don't need all this stuff. And I thought, oh, that's awesome. So, I learned a ton, and I mean, now it's been so long since I've done, more than a day. Do something one overnight or something. I'd have to probably go back and check myself. Yeah. You did so the Pacific Crest Trail goes
from Mexico to Canada.
Across basically the top of the Rocky Mountains.
California. The Sierras, California.
Is it farther west than I'm thinking?
Yeah, it's the Sierra Mountain Range.
Okay,
it's in California.
So
you're thinking of the Continental Divide Trail that cuts straight through the Rockies,
right,
more or less. And the Pacific Crest Trail starts in. I mean, it's all in California, but it starts at the border fence. I mean,
right.
Your foot, you can touch the border from the bottom of it, basically.
Right.
And it goes all the way up to Canada, 2,650-ish miles. It changes every year. There's never a perfect through hike because, I mean, I had to deal with fire closures and do 60 plus miles of highway walking. It's I mean, days of highway walking, sleeping under bridges and stuff. So it's one of the best experiences of my life. But there was tough part. I mean, I'll put it into perspective as I spend months training and getting ready for this. Had everything. I was like, I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna do. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have so much fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah.
I have been training on the East Coast. It's a very different world than the West Coast.
Right.
I got heat exhaustion my first day. I had too much weight. It was too dry. I didn't drink enough water. I was throwing up blood my first night of a multiple month trip. I was throwing up blood, because I mean, it wasn't nothing horrible. It was just I had been dry heaving so much because I couldn't eat anything because I was just so racked, and I had tore a little bit of my esophagus because I was I was dry heaving.
Right.
Yeah. So again, beautiful start to a multi-month journey.
And I was just going to say, when you said about the highway walking, I'm just thinking how much it sucks walking on pavement versus walking on. I remember it's been a while since I've done a really big hike, but I remember thinking, there are a couple points in my life where I thought there's maybe nothing better than walking on moss.
Yeah,
it's just oh, this is just like a cloud. This is heaven, And but when you do something big like that, it's this nice it encompasses so many other parts of life where the whole experience is a thing you look forward to, and the whole experience might be great. Yeah, but you forget there's all these really low moments in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's quite a few of those.
Talk about this whole great thing. So why?
Why the hike?
Yeah, why'd you do it?
It's just,
I mean, I know you're I'm getting away and whatever, but why that hike? Or why?
So again, Bears Den was my first introduction to hiking. And that kind of exposed me to what the Appalachian Trail was. Mm-hmm. That thought had always been on, this is a super long trail that people walk on for a couple. It was just passively thinking about it for most of my life. It's just this is a thing people do. And then I'm eventually it came to a point where it's I think I kind of want to do something like that. I don't remember what the trigger was, if there was any moment, but I think it was just honestly I loved hiking in general, and I hiked on the Appalachian Trail. And I was I want to do something like this, and I thought I'd do the Appalachian Trail, but then I was nah, that's lame.
Everybody does that around here.
Everybody knows, everybody knows about the Appalachian Trail. It's super. It's super popular, and it's only been getting more and more popular.
It's super busy.
It is
there's
very
traffic.
No, there's genuine traffic. Which again, there is. If you want solitude, go to the CDT. But but it kind of came to this whole I want to see different. I mean, travel is a whole another part of my life, like going to fun, exotic places. And never been. I say never been to California. I'd been to San Diego, thanks to Mike Wagner, who got me out there on a GIS conference
Sweet.
in high school. And me and Trent Tillman flew out there and stayed at his, I think, cousin's or something's house, and we presented our final project at this conference, and it was a super cool experience. So it's like, but I got to see San Diego. Beautiful Gaslamp Pizza is the best pizza I've ever had, still to this day. I don't know if it's still there, but I have good memories of that trip.
Right.
But that was my only experience in California. It's kind of this far off mystical place because it's thousands of miles away.
Yeah, I've never been.
Yeah, and I thought, well, what better way to see California than to walk the entirety of it, and the rest of the West Coast. I mean, not to say I started in California, so it's easy to say that. I actually never made it to Oregon or Washington because of the injury, but that was kind of like this. Like I wanted to do something like the Appalachian Trail, but not the Appalachian Trail.
Right.
So what does that leave you with? It's like, well, I mean, there's tons of long trails around the world. There's the Te Aurora in New Zealand, which is super cool, and the Arizona Trail is a nice one. That's a good, 500-ish or so miles.
Right.
Which, I mean, anything. That's the thing is people don't realize is like if you can do a week in the woods, you can do 6 months in the woods. It's the same gear. It's like you just kind of have to resupply your food and have the willpower to keep going.
Yeah.
So anything over like 150 miles, it's like it's pretty much the same setup. I mean,
I don't think I've never done 150 miles.
But it's like I wanted to do something different than the Appalachian Trail. What are my options? Well, there's this thing called the Pacific Crest Trail, and I'm like, well, California is super cool, and let's try that. And that's pretty much like where it stopped. I was I just want to do this one now.
Who went with you?
Myself, just me.
So you went on your own?
100%. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a different beast too, because there's sometimes, even when doing long hikes, like I've always gone with a friend.
Yeah.
But there are points where it's like, we're 2 miles apart, but we're going to stop here. I'll see you later. And, sometimes it's actually nice to just get away and do your own thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I would like it not having at least those moments where like I have the intent of meeting up with this person, or like we're going to be there, like.
Yeah, so the trail community is some of the most amazing people I have ever run into. Like, not only the hikers, but the trail angels. There's somebody I met day one that I hiked till I got off with. I mean, we camped with each other basically every night. And then there was a big group. I mean, I had people who I ended up inviting to my wedding from that. To come, just because it was like you spend that much time with people, you get to know them very well. Yeah. And you're
in a place where there's no other like distractions.
Yeah, there's this like instant bond where it's like you're crazy enough to want to spend 6 months in the woods too. Okay, that's a pretty big like. Yeah, we have that in common. It's like, well, what else are you doing?
Yeah. What else are you into?
So it's this amazing network of people, and it's still continued to this day where it's like where I go hiking and I can pick a through hiker out like a police lineup kind of thing. It's you're obviously on here for a while, or you've been on here for a while, or you plan on going here for a while, and just being able to like talk trail lingo to them. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's this whole community. I mean, just like the music community, which we can go on to that if we've got time. But it's like, it's just this, you have this shared interest.
Yeah. Well, you get like a defined subculture.
A very niche culture of kind of crazy hikers.
Yeah, but it's a thing, and this is something like I'm about to finish a book that was recommended to me by a student last year who's not a guy that recommended a lot of books. Mm-hmm. And then by a student who is one of the smartest, like most capable people ever. Very different students both recommend The Coddling of the American Mind, which is all about just like why is everybody sort of getting weird and protective and PC. Mm-hmm. Not that that's always bad, but like it was just... And one of the things they point out was like how like people don't have like these clearly defined groups that you have face-to-face contact with. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that influence it are that you're sort of sheltered from people. And then when you are around people, you're only around like the same group of people, the same age of people. Like it's weird, right?
Little echo chamber,
Yeah, and you get this echo chamber thing, and so much of this like communication is done, say, electronically, that when you think about things where you get to know people because you actually do it.
Yeah.
Like hiking, you don't have any of the same, not that you can't get on a million message boards and learn about hiking or talk to people and get information, but you're not doing it unless you're there. Like saying going to concerts. Like if you find a band you like and they tour, you can go to. It only takes a couple of shows before you realize I'm seeing some of the same people. You know, and you start talking and you're there, right? But you don't get that if you just watch the live stream on their website, right? And so, you know, to a certain extent, these are things you have to do. And so while you're doing them, it probably makes sense that you form some bonds with people in ways that you wouldn't have in another setting, or maybe even in like a different kind of hobby, so to speak. You know,
I mean, you know, people from all backgrounds and everything, they all come together for this one shared interest, and it's like, okay, you're doing it too.
Yeah,
like, and it's like respect. You know, it's like you just all right, respect. You know.
That I don't think I've ever. I mean, aside from you occasionally catch somebody who doesn't want to like clean up a campsite, like I don't think I've ever met someone hiking on a trail who's doing more than a day hike that seemed totally like awful or abrasive or anything. I'm sure it happens.
Yeah,
but
I have.
But I'm like, I feel like everyone's like has been relatively like polite and friendly, even if they didn't.
It's humbling. I mean, putting you're really stripping yourself down to everything I need to survive is on my back, and I am counting on. Water being where I hope water is. Yeah. But it's again this shared network where there's northbounders or southbounders, people are day hikers going up and down. I mean, so there's this underground network of like, hey, like you just came from this spot. How it like, give me trail updates. Like, give me, was there water at this water cache that somebody said there was at, but I wasn't sure, kind of thing. And it's just like, there's really shared. I mean, because there was a stretch. When I did it, of course, every year's different. Like every year on a 2,700 mile trail is going to be different because there's fires. I mean, fires close down 100-mile sections and plus sometimes, and It's like there's purists where it's like, well, you have to walk it, so they walk the highway, and then there's others who just get on the bus that's transferring people, and they call, there's. Just these elitists like kind of like you didn't walk the whole thing. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna walk on the highway for 150 miles. Like, no, like I'm sorry, I'm gonna catch the bus and I'll come do that section later. And it's just this crazy little elitist culture, which you get in everything. I mean, I go to a Disco Biscuit show, and I'm just like. It's like, yeah, dude. It's like, I'm talking. It's like, I've been to a couple of these shows. And then they eventually ask, well, how many shows have you been to? And it's like, well, this is my 167th show. And then you just see their face. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's 235 for me. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, cool, dude. Like, you love them too. Like, I just play off like this whole, like, that's so cool, dude. Like, I'm so,
yeah, well, that's, you got, for some people, whatever it is, there's someone who's always got to do the most of it or be the, I mean, I guess you get that with anything, but
it's just funny to see it in every culture. I mean, even between hiking and music and stuff, it's like you get these purists, these yellow blazers. Some of them call them if you're walking the highway lines, or pink blazing if you're like chasing a girl on the trail. Like you're like, oh, you're chasing a love interest. Like he's like, oh, I ran into this hiker and I want to spend more time with them, so I'm gonna hike an extra 20 miles today to try to catch up. It's just funny. It's this whole like little subculture that you kind of get sucked into because that's your life for a couple months.
I mean, that's and it's a thing that you probably do when you're young, and if you're into, you can come back to later. Like right now, I'm like, man, my kids are so young that like we go out and it's a couple hours and that's great. But I'm hoping they're into it because then that's an excuse to go do it more. And like I never want to make someone else like something that I like, but it sure is nice when they choose it. I got to give you that level of exposure. All right, so for a different one, just because it would be a different thing, it's something I know you're good at. So for woodworking, how much of that was school? Like you have a shop, right?
Yeah.
What do you make now? Because I know you used to do a lot of like bandsaw.
Yeah, I did. Like yeah, so whenever somebody asks me what do I make, I just say, well, what do you want? Because at this point, I have the skill set and the tools that I could pretty much learn how to make more or less. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some things that I'm just like, nah, I'm not even going to touch that. I'll recommend somebody to do that for you. Right. But I've definitely got this like skill set now and the tools to back it up. Where what do you want? Do you want a table? Do you want a chair? Do you want a bookshelf? Do you want a goblet, to drink wine out of? Do you want whatever? And
it's funny you say it. So you're the guy who's going to be able to answer this question, I think. I guess I've always said this, only partially joking, but people say, like, what are you going to do when your kids want to go to college? How do you pay for that? And I'm like, I hope they don't. I mean, I don't really mean that. I think college is great, but it is really expensive. Mm-hmm. And so my joke had always been, well, I got a kid. My kid's not going to college. My kid's going to be a chair maker. Mm-hmm. They said, what? I said, you ever try to buy, like, nice hardwood furniture at the store? Like, that's crazy expensive. Like, if you're good and you can be quick, you can make a lot of money doing that. But how much, without making the list of all the stuff in your shop, how much money would it take to create that shop?
Right now?
Well, because my
I can tell you.
my joke has always been, and if you want to fake on the numbers so your wife doesn't hear this, I understand that aspect of some hobbies.
Yeah.
What did that cost? Don't worry about it. But I always said, I could probably set up a wood shop for about the cost of a year of college. And if you had the skills, you could have a job for the equivalent. Yeah. But it takes a lot of time to get those skills, right? Yeah. But is that right? Like what?
Yeah. So I would say, and it really. So I started off making these things called bandsaw boxes. That was like, I never took a shop class. I just had a study hall in the shop class.
Oh, I thought because you were there with
Mr. Gregory.
Mr. Gregory all the time. I thought I didn't. Oh, so you never actually took that class?
No, I never took shop. I never took shop at all. I did in middle school. I think when it was like I
feel like you could have gotten outstanding shop student your senior year, and I didn't realize you weren't even in the class.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just hung out there because, well, one, Mr. Gregory is super cool.
Yeah,
and
great guy.
Two, it's just, that was like one of the, again with the GIS stuff, it was like, now somebody's giving me something to like make, to do, and like a project, and that is my learning style. I learn by doing. And
right.
Again, when people ask me, well, what do you do for woodworking? Like when they say, well, what can you make? What do you make? And I say, what do you want? It's because that's how I learn. It's how to do it. It's like, well, it's like I've never made a wooden goblet, so let's go make one.
Right.
And then you know how to make it. And
right.
And then you get better at it, and then you make them one that's nice. You never give them the first one because it's always horrible. Like I always, that tree thing over there. For those of you listening, I'm pointing out to a tree box, a tree shaped box. I hate that thing. It looks horrible. It's just like. That thing, like, I can pick out 100 things wrong with it, and I'm just like, it just irks me to see it. But it's like, my mom loves that one because it was one of the first ones, and it's just like, all right, like, fine, Mom, just let me. I guess I have to stare at it. But I started off making those kind of things, and it just, kind of just grown from that. Like, I got really good at making those, but then Mr. Gregory was good in the way that he taught me. It was like, well. You're making those, right? Yeah. Doing a good job. You're making them, pat on the back kind of thing.
Right.
So how do you get that wood so nice? Like, how does the board, like, so there's this, there's rough cut lumber, there's surface lumber, there's edged lumber where, like, the edges are all parallel, flat and square. Like, this is like a pristine piece of wood to work with. It's like, that's not how that piece of wood grows. Like, it doesn't grow perfectly flat and straight and all that. It's like, how do you get to that point? And that's like the fundamentals of woodworking is getting the wood to kind of do what you need it to do. And he kind of took it from like, okay, you can buy this like piece of cedar from Woodcraft for $35 because it's planed and surfaced and pretty and it's like square. Right. All you have to do is slap it together with some glue and cut it out and you've got yourself a bandsaw box, and that's nice and easy. It's like, okay, well, if you want to do more, like, go buy a piece of rough cut lumber where it's like big old gouges, saw marks, all sorts of things. It's warped, it's
like
bowed.
Plane the whole thing.
Yeah, and like, okay, well, like, here's step one. Here's how you get this side flat. And here's how you get this side square to that side. Here's how you get this side parallel to that side. And here's how you get this whole thing squared off. And it's like, that's a whole... you need to do that. Again, there's this whole, like, debate of, like, well, how much do you really need to start a wood shop? It's like, well, if you do it with hand tools... less than $500.
Right.
You could have like a pretty hardy little shop going on.
Right.
With hand tools take forever.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and there's nothing wrong with them. I don't hate on hand tools. It's just like, when it takes me 30 minutes to plane a board, when I can run it through my joiner and it's about 30 seconds,
Right.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and that's really all a fancier wood shop gets you is efficiency. It's how can I do this but quicker? Because it's like I just recently dropped a few $1,000s on a single tool. Like it was a huge purchase. It cost more than my first car kind of purchase.
Right.
And like all it did was make me like more precise and quicker.
Right.
Like I could have done any cut that I could have done. I've built just as much. I built more furniture without that tool than with it.
Right.
So how can I justify wanting to spend this much money? It's like, okay, well, now for every time I need to make a 36.5-inch cut on this piece of plywood, I can do it in 30 seconds when it would take me 10, 15 minutes of setup. And if I need to do that 45 times for a project, which, if I built the bar at King Street Coffee downtown, and there's like, I can't remember the exact dimensions, but like I think it's like 28 inches deep. I needed to do the cut like 30 panels at 28 inches, and I had to do that like by hand for every single one.
Right.
If I had the saw at that time, man, I would have cut 10 hours off of that project. It felt like, and that's like when time is money. It's like that's where you can justify that, and that's where I'm like in this fine balance of like, this isn't a job.
Yeah.
Like I don't like make my living off of this, but I do make good money off of it doing various projects. And it's like this balance of like I basically feed money that I make selling my woodworking into buying a better shop. And my kind of pipe dream goal is like one day I'll have this shop where I can do literally anything efficiently, and I can quit my job, and this will be my bridge job to retirement kind of thing. And it's like, but I need like $100,000 shop to do that, and I'm nowhere near that at this point, kind of thing.
So for and you don't have to say your specific shop, but to get to the point where you can say do more and do it efficiently, and whether even if some things are still hand tools or a little more basic, just to be able to build most things that people would ask for, 20 grand, 30 grand.
To do it in a reasonable amount of time that's not going to drive you insane, I'd say about 15 grand. I've got about 25 grand invested in my shop right now. Yeah,
I mean that like I said, I used to say like as a joke, but only halfway joking, that like if you have a kid, and now I'm thinking about like my students in school, if you have the interest and the ability, or at least the willingness to learn, you could get yourself a shop and be able to do things for a fraction of the cost of what college was going to cost you. Not that there's anything wrong with college per se, but if you're not really that into it anyway, like there's a lot of more interesting things, or more unique ways you could say spend that money and apply your skill.
I think that's incredibly true. In that, it does. I mean, it's an investment to get into some of the hobbies that I've gotten into. There's really easy ways to get in that are just dipping your toes in. But to be a genuine, true, like, what do you want me to build for you, rather than what can I build, woodworker? I mean, it does cost a pretty penny just to get to that point. But again, at the same time, there's these wonderful things called maker spaces out there where it's like you can basically buy a subscription to a full-fledged workshop. I mean, there's one in